Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the performance of Strength Super Saiyan 4 Bardock with 2 dupes in the hidden potential system and how he does under a new lead and a new interesting team build. Now Bardock, the one thing about him that I will say, we took a look at him at 55% and he did really well. 4 million attack stats, around 200k defense, and he looked really good. Honestly speaking, he looked really honestly quite impressive. The thing is, Bardock is still really solid, but the big thing with Bardock is obviously, or what I will say with him, is he's very dupe dependent. Dupes very clearly make him better, more so than make him worse. So there is kind of that aspect to Bardock. Obviously, kind of talking about him as a unit, one nice thing is with this new Bardock, this new storied figures, Goku's family, Pure Saiyan, kind of 200% lead, it does give Bardock a little bit more access to some different teams. And his requirements aren't that restrictive. He needs 2 or more crossover category units to kind of activate his full capabilities, and he needs a giant ape power unit in the same turn. So although this does limit your team build quite a bit, not everything's locked behind the same kind of requirements. So Bardock is a crossover category lead of 150%. He raises attack and defense for 1 turn, and also seals super attacks, which is pretty impressive and pretty important. In terms of obviously everything else, he looks really solid. I think in general he's an incredibly strong unit that tends to kind of have a very good performance across the board. In terms of his abilities, he is attack and defense at 200% with an additional attack and defense of 100% when there's another 2 or more crossover category allies on the team. He also has an additional attack and defense of 100% when HP is 50% or more, attacks effective against all types when HP is 70% or more, guaranteed critical hits when HP is 90% or more, and a medium chance of evading the enemy's attack when there's another giant ape power category unit attacking in the same turn. So here we got Bardock, most of his links decently hit up, close to 300k defense, only at 20% support on a rotation, and you can immediately see how dupes kind of benefit Bardock as a unit. Like I said before, he kind of sits in a space where he's heavily dupe dependent because he relies on raw attack and raw defense. Having dupes and his high levels of multiplicative stats means that he generally just looks better. From no dupes being 200k to 2 dupes being 300k, you can clearly kind of see where he lies as a unit. Not only that, but his links are pretty strong. There is some definite power within his links. By the way, just want to mention that Tech Bardock probably has one of the coolest intro songs out there, completely. So yeah, Bardock kind of sits in the space of having raising attack and defense for 1 turn, which is great, and sealing the enemy's super attack. He also has attack and defense of 200%, which is obviously fantastic, and all this kind of affects really big based on his base stats. His links, as I mentioned before, are very crucial, with Saiyan Raw being an incredibly potent link attack-wise and defense-wise. First Awakened is a very strong link attack-wise and defense-wise, and he's able to activate this a lot easier on this new Bardock team. We're going to be getting an EZA for SS3 Bardock. We're going to be getting a couple EZAs for Tech Bardock and Physical Bardock. So we're really starting to look like we have some decent options with the First Awakened link, which is really good. Alongside that, in terms of his links, he has Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race. These are fairly common. And he also has Prepared for Battle and Sharing the Limit, which again is also relatively common enough. To cut a long story short, things kind of sit in the space of being pretty decent. I want to say overall, like really solid. So yeah, I think where Bardock sits as a unit, he makes me pretty happy with his overall performance. I think if I was to kind of critique Bardock as a unit, I would say he realistically sits in this very strong space of being an incredibly reliable unit overall. And I think when it comes down to it, Bardock sits as a very good option 4 damage, and just for being an incredibly reliable unit from that perspective. Defense wise, he'll have enough defense to handle most red zones, especially if you link level him, and there's some value in link leveling him. You do get quite a lot out of it, especially from the Saiyan Raw and the First Awakened links, especially defensively. And in terms of correct build, I do think additionals is the best way to go on Bardock. 70% is not a bad health threshold to have attacks effective against all types on, and so in general I think Bardock kind of sits in this solid enough position whereby he's not unreliable, but in this position where he's probably solid enough to be fairly consistent and fairly decent. So yeah, I would say that's kind of where I lie with Bardock as a unit. And yeah, I think in general he's really honestly just very impressive. So yeah, for me, I'm quite happy with him. I think he's good, and yeah, it makes me pretty happy to obviously see just how good he is as a unit. So yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with Bardock, and I'm pretty happy with how he looks. Stats wise, performance wise, very competent, very easy to use. With the Bardocks that are getting Awakens now, he also has a lot more usable units alongside him. Yes, you're not going to get Saiyan Raw, and yes, you do want to consider having a Giant Ape Power unit for obviously activating that kind of full portion of his passive, but you do kind of sit in the space of being just around about solid enough without them. Giant Ape Power only really adds that medium chance for evasion, which isn't huge. It does help, but it's only 30% evasion. It's not a massive amount, and it's not going to critically change how he functions, at least from my perspective. I think he functions fine without it, and I think he looks really good. 5.5 million attack stats, very solid, like defensive capabilities, 300k raw defense, with no real main support on the rotation, not fully link leveled, and yeah, I think overall he looks pretty good. Like I said, probably additionals are the best way to go, with the fact that he raises his defense. If he gets a double super, he will definitely be sitting over the 400k mark, which is good. It's basically enough to tank normals and pretty much most content, so yeah, he looks really good from that perspective, and I think overall he's a really reliable unit. First Awakened, like I said, is getting a little bit of a buff with the amount of usable units that are coming out with it, so you can look at activating that or getting that active to kind of have it synced up with him. But obviously you do want to consider the fact that you do want a Giant Ape Power unit, and from that perspective a lot of the Super Saiyan 4 units are going to link really well with them. A lot of them will have Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race, and Saiyan Raw, and this is, you know, obviously very crucial links in terms of his overall performance. So yeah, I think for me in general he looks good, but I would say that there is kind of this consideration that, okay, you know, personally there is a bit of a need to have a Giant Ape Power unit on the team, at least from a linking perspective, or otherwise you have to go with the Super Saiyan Bardock. Those are kind of his best partners. SS3 Bardock's also okay, also a crossover unit, so there is some of that decent synergy sitting there. But yeah, you do have to consider these things when you look at Bardock and you look at how you want to use him. But he did get a big buff with this new Bardock coming out. The ability for him to have new options and mingle with new supports is really good, and yeah, I really like him. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.